Ladies and gentlemen, happy 4th of July. This is very, very interesting. There are so many layers to, and it's all public record. There are so many layers of corruption to all of this regarding President Trump and the most vile, duplicitous, insidious machine that went after him. This is a great article. Russian oligarch's story could spell trouble for Team Mueller. John Solomon. Sometimes it is the quiet, elusive ones who come back to haunt you. And for ex-special prosecutor Robert Mueller, one of those might be a Russian billionaire named Oleg Deripaska. This is really interesting. So this is a guy who is a mega wealthy billionaire who just happened to be, he was a legal research client of Christopher Steele in his spare time. He occasionally cooperated with the FBI and its fired FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. So I'll read you this. The oligarch who once controlled Russia's largest aluminum empire has been an international man of intrigue and is the now completed and disproven Trump collusion investigation. He never colluded with Russia. It never happened. The Democratic Party, I should say, Democrats believe it still happened. They don't get it. There was no evidence to indict or to press charges on anyone. They don't get it. They're like, well, did you see the contacts he had? Who? Joseph Mifsud, Natalia Veselnitskaya? Who? Mueller didn't even interview them, and now we know that Joseph Mifsud has ties to Western intelligence. This is in the Hill, ladies and gentlemen. The Hill. This is public record knowledge. Public record. The public record is enough to sink all of this. Deripaska was so he worked with Andrew McCabe, worked with Christopher Steele, two of the main culprits, or suspects, we should say, regarding setting up and framing Trump. And at the height of the Russia collusion hysteria, Deripaska was sanctioned by the Trump administration to financially punish Russian President Vladimir Putin for his meddling in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. I love John Solomon, and the article is brilliantly written. I will say this. The Russians didn't meddle in the election. We have no evidence that even one vote was altered. So there was no meddling. 3 days before the election, the New York Times Nate Cohn wrote that Clinton had a solid electoral college lead. And people on the left and conservatives, which is interesting, some conservatives who were like George W. Bush, former employees, former employee of the Bush administration. Anyway, that's another story. Internet trolls look at my writing and they say, oh, well, look at what he wrote in the Huffington Post. Yeah, my writing was a lot more accurate than the nonsense that was spewed before and after the election. And nobody, not Nate Silver, not the Upshot, the New York Times, nobody, not one polling aficionado, not one expert, not one analyst, not one pundit on the left or in mainstream was saying that Facebook ads or Twitter bots were influencing voters. You can't go back and find any evidence that voters were influenced. If anything, everyone was saying, I think it was Frank Luntz that was saying, mark it down, Clinton's going to win today. Everyone was saying that she was going to win until the second that she didn't. Okay? Facebook ads didn't influence the election. So that's a bunch of nonsense. But anyway, let's continue. We still don't know if the Russians hacked the DNC, and indicting Russian intelligence officers doesn't mean you have any evidence, especially when Company 1 is the evidence utilized. Well, Company 1 said that the Russians did a whole lot of bad things. So it's like, well, let's continue. With the Russian case, it had so many connections. Now completed, Deripaska is breaking a silence. and what he has to say could impact Mueller's July 17th testimony before Congress in a wide-ranging interview. Now, if you want to see the interview, you can go in The Hill, John Solomon, Russian oligarch story could spell trouble for Team Mueller. On a different computer, I'll probably play it either today or tomorrow, because the sound on this one is not really that great. But, sorry about that. The sound on this one is not really that great, but I will play the interview. I will play the interview tomorrow. But this is interesting. In a wide-ranging interview with me, Deripaska confirmed a story told to me more than a year ago by law enforcement sources. He was indeed interviewed by FBI agents in September 2016 during the early Russia probe, and he told them he strongly doubted the Bureau's theory that the Trump campaign, through Manafort, was colluding with Moscow to hijack the 2016 election. Of course it's nonsense. Of course it's nonsense. So a former associate, well, we'll get to that, the special counsel or someone the special counsel knows, I told them straightforward, look, I am not a friend with Manafort. Apparently not, because I started a court case against him 6 or 9 months ago. But since I'm Russian, I would be very surprised that anyone from Russia would try to approach him for any reason and wouldn't come and ask my opinion. He said, recounting exactly what he told the FBI agents that day. I told them straightforward, I just don't believe that he would represent any Russian interest. And knowing what he's doing for Ukraine for the last, 7 or 8 years. Okay, so why should we care if a Russian denied Trump collusion with Russia during the election? First, Deripaska wasn't just any Russian. He was closely aligned with Putin and had been helpful to the FBI as far back as 2009. So he had earned some trust with the agents. This is interesting. Most importantly, Deripaska's interview with the FBI reportedly was never provided by Team Mueller to Manafort's lawyers. Interesting. Gee, I wonder why. Even though it was potential proof of innocence, according to Manafort's defense attorney, Kevin Downing. Exculpatory evidence the government just never gives, unless it's Clinton, who's running again. You think all of this took place? Is this a coincidence? No. She's going to run again. I explained that the other day. That omission opens a possible door for appeal for what is known as a Brady violation for hiding exculpatory information from a defendant. Recent revelations by The Hill prove the Office of Special Counsel claim that they had a legitimate basis to... Okay, yeah, right. Okay, so no. So let's continue. Manafort investigation. Recent revelations by The Hill prove that the Office of Special Counsel's claim that they had legitimate basis to include Paul Manafort in an investigation of potential collusion between the Trump presidential campaign and the Russian government is false. Downing, Manafort's attorney, told John Solomon. The failure to disclose this information to Manafort, the court, to the public reaffirms the Office of Special Counsel did not have a legitimate basis to investigate Manafort. Deripaska's second relevance to Mueller's congressional hearing has to do with a series of events that first gained him trust inside the FBI. Deripaska confirmed a story that John Solomon reported last year that he spent more than $20 million of his own money between 2009 and 2011 on a private rescue operation to free Robert Levinson, a retired FBI agent, captured in 2007 while on a government mission, U.S. government mission, under John Brennan was the head of that agency at that time. Deripaska confirmed he paid for the operation at the request of the FBI, which was then under who? Robert Mueller's direction. And he added that McCabe, then a rising FBI supervisor who was a former colleague of Levinson and later became a key figure in the Russian collusion probe, was one of those who asked him to help. Quote, I was approached, by someone that he is under a lot of scrutiny now, McCabe, Deripaska said. So Deripaska is linked to McCabe and to Mueller. The cleanest guy in all of this is Deripaska. The saint in all of this. And the shadiest people are our people. Okay? Interesting how that works out. He has also said that it was important enough for all of them, and I kind of trusted them. So you know what? Who stopped this whole thing? I give kudos to McCabe for trying to, and Mueller for trying, at least, to get Robert Levinson out. Deripaska said his privately funded rescue team came very close to a deal, but he was told by his FBI handlers that a deal ran into difficulties at Hillary Clinton's State Department. Yet another horrible, horrible track record. Yet another Clinton production. Yet another Golden Moo production. Funny how it works that Clinton is on the wrong side of history on almost pretty much every major issue. Some issues fine here and there, but it's like almost every major issue. Deripaska said he's continuing to investigate what really happened at the State Department with Levinson as he tries to fight the sanctions levied against him in 2018. And Deripaska's complicated tale goes on. His legal team in 2012 hired Steele, the former British MI6 agent, to do some research for a lawsuit involving a business rival Deripaska was fighting in London. It was a research project to support what was the case against me in London. Okay, so unbelievable. So Deripaska is linked to Mueller. He's linked to McCabe. He's linked to Christopher Steele. My God. And what do you think's going to happen? And you have Democrats, you have pundits. I think Chris Matthews was like, oh, they're going to bring up a lot of dirt on Manafort, Mueller to try to undermine him. It's like, yeah, not to undermine him. The difference between the Trump bringing up quote-unquote dirt and Clinton is that Clinton fabricates things and makes things up because her past is filled with criminality. Like, you're talking about everything from the Clinton Foundation to email servers with top secret and special access program intelligence to when she was at the State Department and messed up a deal to bring home a retired FBI agent who was in captivity, taken, and so it's interesting how Robert Mueller wouldn't use the Russian billionaire that he knew who had funded with his money an effort to get an FBI agent out of harm's way. It's interesting how the special counsel wouldn't use testimony from that man who stated, Mueller didn't do anything. Manafort didn't do anything. So Deripaska stated that Manafort didn't do anything. So it's like, unbelievable. You have a situation, ladies and gentlemen, that's completely unbelievable. You have a situation where they're continuing to keep exculpatory evidence out while at the same time signing consent agreements. Signing consent agreements with the Clinton team of attorneys that said that the FBI could not look at Clinton Foundation emails while they were investigating her emails servers with top secret and special access program intelligence that, of course, her private emails, by the way, belong to the United States government. We learned that. Well, we always knew that, but there was a Judicial Watch FOIA request that talks about how, there was a person at the State Department who was voicing major concerns. Of course, he was ignored. And the State Department had no had no way to access Clinton's emails, which is interesting. Isn't that interesting? They admit that in another Judicial Watch interrogatory. Give me your thoughts below. If you want to support my voice long term, my Patreon is below in the pinned comment. Share my segment, or my Federalist article in the pinned comment that was shared by Rush Limbaugh for 2 days straight on 2 of his shows. And that article is all the quote-unquote evidence is linked to Clinton. There was nothing legal about any of this. It is illegal. Let's just say it. It is illegal to use information purchased by a political rival to start an investigation. If the reverse happened, if the tables were turned, if the shoe were on the other foot, they would never in a million years allow Trump to do that. Never in a million years would they allow Trump to do that. So, I mean, this is where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we're at as a country. And I'm telling you, Clinton's going to run again. Mark my words, she's going to run again. I said she would lose in 2015 when those people who try to denigrate my writing, they forget that it was more accurate than the mainstream. In the Huffington Post, when I was on the left, the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, the Washington Post called me the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters. Thank God Trump won. In hindsight, I should have just been a Trump supporter. Because he's a great president. Record low Black and Latino unemployment. Record 50-year low in unemployment. The first president to step foot in North Korea. The first president to meet with a North Korean leader and step foot in North Korea. I mean, that would never have happened, ever, under Clinton, whose foreign policy was to ring China with missile defense. We can go on forever. The guy is a good president, and he doesn't stand for hate. He doesn't stand for this. The left paints as if they're the ones. Okay, those detention facilities, they were built under President Obama. Don't get me started. We can go, he deported more human beings than anyone in history. And the left is like, well, it's all about Trump. No, it's not. Look in the mirror. Give me your thoughts below. Thank you so very much. Happy 4th of July. God bless America and God bless.